Welcome again, everyone. We're so excited that you're joining us. This is our Innovative Women in Leadership virtual event series. Today, we're going to be talking about finding your why and establishing your personal brand. So excited to discuss that with our very own Tamica Sears. Before we get started, I want to remind you guys, if you hear any amazing nuggets that Tamica gives you today, which she will, she's got tons of great tips and tricks, lots of good anecdotes too to share with you. If you pick up on anything and you want to join the conversation outside of this virtual event, I encourage you to use these hashtags, hashtag TE virtual events or hashtag TEVE. This is our must-see TEVE, so make sure you're using that hashtag. Of course, I also encourage you to use our hashtag IWILL1L to highlight our Innovative Women in Leadership series. This one, of course, is so near and dear to my heart as a woman leader, along with Tamica, and as a mother of two young daughters, making sure that we're always supporting other women leaders in any way we can. So use those hashtags. If you're having a watching party, we hear about a lot of our corporate partners doing this. If you're having a watching party in your office, take a picture, put it on social media, and then use these hashtags. We'd love to see it. Okay, now I want to introduce you to our speaker today, guys. We have the very lovely Tamica Sears. She's an executive coach and human resources professional. She partners with executive leadership teams to increase their productivity and effectiveness and to meet their strategic goals. She focuses on leading with authenticity. Leaders that Tamica has coached have shown tremendous upward mobility. She is changing the face of corporate America, one leader at a time, and that's why she's called the Corporate Fixer. She's published a collection of motivational quotes and affirmations, Are You Enough, found on Amazon, and she's contributed to two best-selling anthologies, Are You the Missing Piece? And My Journal, My Journey. Tamica is also the proud mother of two adult children and the cutest dog in the country she was just telling me about. So welcome, Tamica. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I have to tell you guys, Tamica and I met at an event a few months back. We had an immediate connection. She, of course, has done a tremendous job in building her personal brand as the Corporate Fixer. And so it just seemed like an incredible opportunity to have her join us on this Innovative Women in Leadership series so she could bestow that knowledge on all of us. So we're so excited that you're here, Tamica. Okay, so today, guys, this is what we're going to focus on. We're first going to talk about what is a personal brand. Why do you need to worry about it, to focus on it, to ensure that you're putting some attention to it? How Tamica established her own personal brand and found her why. And then, of course, we want to give you all the tips and tricks that we can to identify your own why and build your personal brand. So let me stop sharing so that we can dive right in, Tamica. Okay, so, and as always, if you're in the chat, tell us where you're joining us from, and of course, what you're hoping to learn from today's event. Tamica, so excited that you're here. Let's start with what is personal branding and why is it important? Why should we be focusing on this?
So I feel, especially as a woman leader, that personal branding is so important because we have to do sometimes a little bit extra to stand out. And for me, personal branding is the essence and feel in the room before you even walk in.
Love that. Essence and feel. Tell me more about that. What do you mean? Do you mean like reputation, or is it reputation plus other things? Talk to me about what all it is.
So it's reputation plus. So when you are going into a meeting, do you want people in that meeting to be sitting around and saying, oh my God, Tamica's coming in here? Or do you want them to say, you know what? Let's hold off on this conversation because we want Tamica's input.
Yeah, that's great.
It's that feeling that you give people. Are you giving value or are you giving a headache? Or are you that in between and you can scoot over to giving value?
So how do you think that I think what you're saying, it requires a little bit of self-awareness to kind of establish where your own personal brand is currently and then how you work towards fixing it. So tell me some tips and tricks about how can I know what people are thinking before I walk into a room?
So there's a couple ways to go about that. So there's always the free, cheap, and maybe not as easy way to talk to people and say, you know what, I am going on a personal journey and I want to really work on my personal development and my career development. Can I talk to you for a few minutes about the conversations that people have when I'm not in the room and what your personal view of me is? So
Wow.
it's a very brave conversation to have, and you have to be ready to maybe hear some truths that might sting a little bit.
Hmm.
But I think that if you're willing to have that conversation with your peers, with people that report to you, with your leaders, I guarantee they're going to see you as someone who really truly means it and who's really there to do the work.
You know
Uh,
what I love about that, Tamika? You're right. It requires, I think, a tremendous amount of bravery to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just approach it head on and ask them directly. Talk to me about what people think about me or how people feel about me when they're working closely with me. I think it gives you a good way to establish it, but I think also just doing that, I think pushes your brand
yes,
in the direction that you're hoping to do it. So even if it stings, just know that the way that what you're communicating by just asking and opening that conversation, I imagine is going to create some good momentum for your personal brand.
absolutely. So I have a very good friend of mine that works for a large defense contractor. And she and I talked, and this is one of the things that she did. So she went to some key people in the organization, and she said, "Hey, I want to move forward here. I want to learn. I want to grow. How do I do that? How am I perceived? And this is how I want to perceived. Help me fill the gap."
Oh,
And
wow.
it was hard. And
Hmm.
she had some tough conversations. She had some conversations. She shed some tears, and but she's doing absolutely amazing now. And people see her as one of the top HR people in that organization. And
Hmm.
if she hadn't had those conversations, she wouldn't be where she is now.
Yeah. And I think that that's really helpful, especially for women, like you were saying, because there's this tendency, or at least we have this concern that there's a stereotype that all women share similar characteristics
Right.
in professional settings. And so I think that you're able to break a mold by showing up to that conversation and in owning your power and strength in those
Yes,
conversations. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that's great. Okay, I love this. So, why is it important for any professional? We talked about this a little bit, but especially women, to focus on and build their personal brand? I know we talk about how it will help you in your career growth.
Mhm.
What other benefits of establishing a personal brand would you recommend us focusing on?
So it's not, and it's funny because when I do coaching in kind of like a holistic way. So I work with people in the workplace, but some of that translates over.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that you have daughters.
Right.
So when you have cultivated your personal brand and you are self-aware and you are self-confident and you understand that putting yourself first is not selfish,
Hmm.
your daughters see that and they grow up in an environment where they know that you can be strong as a woman, that emotions are okay as a woman, that you can have that confident feeling every single day, which, I didn't grow up with that feeling.
Okay.
My mom was an amazing mom, but she was also very focused on looks sometimes, and so it was like sit up straight and put a book on your head, and things like that.
Right.
Um, Whereas there are people who grew up with their parents saying, you know, you are awesome, you can be anything that you want to be, because they had that confidence as well. And when
Hmm.
you get into the workplace, you can see a difference with those people.
Isn't that fascinating? I love that you've actually talked about this because where we started was really kind of this self aware and self promoting space. You want to be sure that your essence, like you said, your essence that walks into the room before you do is in a positive way. People are saying, oh, well,
Right.
we need to hold off on this because we can't wait to hear what Tamika has to say about this.
Right.
Because her thoughts are insightful and motivating and et cetera, et cetera. I think what I really love about what you're saying here now is that what your personal brand does is it helps benefit those closest to you, whether
Yes.
it's your daughters, whether it's the other women leaders in your organization around you. As you model this elevated personal brand, they grow as well, which is what I think we
Absolutely.
all, strive to do for those around us.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those things where when you are able to grow, you can grow those around you in a really authentic, amazing way.
Yeah, that's incredible. So talk to me now, Tamika. This is all great stuff. I love this. Share with me how you're able to identify your why and then how that helped you foster your own personal brand.
So my why started a long time ago. So I grew up pretty poor, in a rough neighborhood. I had a baby when I was 18 years old, um, and then I was in a very abusive relationship. And so I was kind of like, what happened to me? Like I kind of lost myself along the way there, and losing myself kind of opened up that bad vulnerability to get into that abusive relationship. And it took
Mhm.
a while for me to realize like this is not who I am. I need to reset. So I was able to get out of that relationship and get back to being me and build up and say, wow, like it's so easy to lose track of who you are. And so that is why I love working with women so that other people don't lose track. And if you
Mhm.
have, you don't like slip to rock bottom, kind of like what happened with me, but you're
Right.
able to build up and it's a shorter process to get back to that, glowing, awesome state that you know that you can be at.
Wow, that is incredible. I think that, first of all, kudos. I mean, that's a really tremendous and inspiring story. I think that there are a number of attendees and women, men too, that are probably looking up today and going, "How did I lose me?" I
Mhm.
love that. It's so powerful. How did I lose me? And you talked about how you were able to kind of hit that rock bottom and then build yourself up from there. I'm curious to know what tools did you use to build yourself up from there? Because whether it's an abusive relationship or a young mother, or maybe there are people out there just looking up at their jobs and going, how did I get to this place?
Right.
My life, how did I get off track? And so what tools do you recommend that helped you kind of build yourself back up?
So I was pretty far down, so I was in therapy. And I recommend if you are at a low, go
Mhm.
for it. Like I'm a very I believe that mental health should be talked about. It's a conversation that should be out there. There should be no stigma when it comes to mental health. So I got therapy.
Mhm.
But then I also was able to, through, I have like the most awesome mentors. Like I am blessed to have the mentors that I have. So through one of my mentors, I learned about DISC, which is a personality profile.
Okay.
And so I was able to learn a little bit more about myself and my personality style and how it connected with other personality styles to be able to have more powerful conversations.
Mm.
And so through being able to have those powerful conversations, I learned that you get what you ask for. And so I started being able to raise my raise my hand and say, that's a project I want in on. That's something that I want to learn about. And so, piece by piece, I was able to grow and develop. And then I got a coach, and that's how I learned about coaching. And it was just kind of snowballed into this like big, avalanche of awesomeness.
I love that. An avalanche of awesomeness. Can we all please strive to be there in our
Yes.
lives? One of the things I really feel like the kind of through line that you're describing here, Tamika, is really a journey of self-discovery.
Yes.
And really that's what I feel like you're advocating for is like once we know who we are as a person and the tools that you're describing through therapy, through personality assessments, through finding mentors, finding people that are in your circle that you strive to be like, bringing them closer to you, having
Yes.
them coach you, having them, excuse me, help you on this journey of self-discovery. It seems like that is what you're really advocating for and helping you identify that why and giving you those tools to kind of get to that avalanche of awesome. The other thing I want to highlight that you said that I just really love is that we get what we ask for. And the more that we know ourselves, the more I think confidence we have in asking for the things that we want. I read this quote once that we all forgive me why I think of it. It's we accept the love we think we deserve.
Yes.
And I think it's really in line with what you're describing is that like once we decide that we deserve more, that we are worthy of more, we get more. And
Yes.
it's just a matter of convincing that yourself through the people around you and through that self-discovery that you can get there.
Absolutely. And what you said is key is the people that are around you. So you do want to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with positive people and
Mm.
people that can bring you up rather than bring you down. That's a big piece as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is great. Okay, I love it. So you're the corporate fixer. Would you say that that's your personal brand, or do you think that it's part of your personal brand?
I think that that's part of my personal brand. So
Okay.
the corporate fixer, it's funny because that really came about. I was about a year ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, she's like, you need something snazzy, and I was like, I don't do snazzy. Like, I was like, I just, I just fix corporate. So she's like, oh, so you're the corporate fixer, and I was like, oh, that is snazzy.
I love that. That is really
Yeah,
great. Well,
yeah.
it's great. I'm really impressed. Yeah, it's so good. I think you're right. I think though that you have a very public personal brand, I'll say,
Yes.
and I think though that it's important, that really even who I am in my own organization, who all of our attendees are in their own organization, spend a little bit of time, right? Spend a little bit of time deciding who you are and what you want people to think about when you leave the room. There are a number of women that I look up to that I think, oh, I love this about her, and I love this about her, and this one. And I think that if you spend a little bit of time doing that, it helps you kind of piecemeal together all of the attributes that you may want in your own personal brand.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that there's one person that's all things to anyone, but there
Mm-hmm.
are certainly people that you can look at and you can say, "Oh my gosh, she is like an amazing speaker. Like
Right.
she has amazing insight. She has
Mm-hmm.
all the confidence in the world." And so it's like you kind of you take from all of that and you can help mold yourself.
Yeah, I love that. So, what other tips and tricks do you have for us? As you're such a great coach. What other tips and tricks? I love the idea of putting things together from other people. But what else can we do to help establish our own why and build our personal brand?
So one of the things, so if you're not at a point where you have the courage to go out and have those one-on-one conversations, I would recommend doing a 360. So a 360 is when you get anonymous feedback from everyone in your circle. It can be outside vendors, your leaders, your peers, your coworkers, and they all give you feedback. So you have a really good idea of not just what they think of you, but what they think your strengths are as well. Because what I
Hmm.
found is sometimes people are focusing on a strength that they feel is important and they feel is a strength, but other people don't view it as important or don't view it as their strength.
Right.
Really important that you're focusing on the right things.
That's really great. So I think what we'll do, just to recap all of the things that you said, finding your why, not being afraid of this journey of self-discovery, surrounding yourself with the people that you know and trust, and really not being afraid to have conversations, whether it's anonymous or face-to-face about where you are on your journey of
Yes.
building that personal brand, and then how you need to identify those gaps to get where you want to go.
Yes.
Okay, I love this. Okay, what I want to do now is open up the conversation to everyone else. There's a lot of activity happening in the chat, which I think is great. Jobo is going to link the exchange where we're going to ask Tamika about what she thinks, any questions that you have about this building of your personal brand. So I'm going to share my screen now. Take a look at this QR code if you have your mobile device. Go ahead and get your mobile device out. Zoom in on your camera with this QR code. You'll see something pop down. Click on it. It'll take you right into the exchange. The question we have on today's exchange, of course, is what thoughts or questions do you have for Tamika or anything that we've discussed so far? If it's easier, you can just go to thoughtexchange.com/join and enter the 9-digit code you see here on your screen. And of course, like I said, Jobo has put the link to the exchange in the chat. Remember, you don't have to sign up for anything. Just agree to the privacy terms, and then you're off to the races. We want you to go in, share some thoughts, then go in and star. Try to star between 20 and 30 thoughts. It gives us a robust idea of the values and priorities of the group as a whole. And then after I'm quiet for a few minutes, so I give you time to do that. We'll come back with Tamica and we'll walk through the top thoughts so she can address your questions and feedback. So I'm going to stop talking so you can do that, and I'm going to participate in the exchange too.
I absolutely love Thoughtexchange. I have to tell you, I just think that this is like, it's the best. I love it.
That's so great, Tamika. And I love hearing that, because one of the things too, you're talking about the Anonymous 360, a lot of our corporate partners use this exact platform, our platform, to do just what you're saying. You know, what are my strengths and areas of improvement that I can focus on in the coming year? We do that here ourselves. And I tell you, the growth that comes from it is just amazing.
Yeah. It's an awesome, amazing platform. It really is.
Thanks. Okay, jumping in. Okay, you'll see this, the thought graph here. This is all the people who are participating and sharing thoughts right now. If it's okay with you, Tamica, I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in.
Awesome.
Okay, let's do it. Let's see what our top thoughts are. Okay. Great story, very authentic conversation. Courage inspires others to be brave. Thanks for that feedback. We appreciate that. What advice would you give to people just starting their career who may not know what they want their brand to be? This is a good question. But
Awesome.
We're all kind of established in our careers. We've been here 15 years or so. You know, talk to me about someone who's really just coming right out of university potentially, and they need to figure out what they want to do.
So there's a lot of work that can be done with working on what your values are, so that your brand aligns with your values, and really kind of working towards the you that you want to be. So your brand can be literally anything that you want it to be. So if you are going into a career and you are going into engineering, for example, and you want to make sure that you're working for the right company that aligns with your values, you're in the right role that aligns with your values. So there's a lot of work that can be done there really early on to make sure that you're starting in the right place, so that as you build your brand, it aligns with like who you truly authentically are.
This is great. I love this. This is, you know, there's so much, there's like so many layers to this because what we talked about in the first part of this event was really this self-discovery. And I think that, but it's a lot of internal, like, finding out what your values are. What you're describing too here is kind of the next step of that, the external portion of that. Is this the right company for me? Is this the right position for me? All these external circumstantial things and how they align with that journey of self-discovery, I think is so, so important. And I'm so glad we uncovered that through this. So I think that's great. I wish when I had gotten out of university that someone had challenged me with these same questions, or had challenged myself with those questions, because I think you have so much discovery that you do in your first 5 years of a career. That if you're asking yourself this from the very beginning, you're saving yourself a lot of heartache.
Yes, you're setting yourself up in a really decent road for success.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, great. This is a good one. I'm so interested to hear your thoughts on this. How do you remain authentic while still creating a brand that sells, for a lack of a better word? Has it ever been a challenge for you or others you've coached?
It has. And so one of the things that I like to remind people is there's someone for everyone, and you're not always going to be everyone's cup of tea. Mm-hmm. And so the me that I am, like I'm pretty blunt. I am pretty direct. That doesn't always work for everyone. And so if someone wants a coach that is going to be less direct, or go about things in a slower way, or hold their hand in a different way, I am quite okay with saying, you know what, I'm not going to be able to help you in the way that you need, but I have connections everywhere, and I can get you with someone that you need.
Right.
So for me, I'd rather stay authentic to who I am and have a brand that represents who I am. And if I'm going to sell, it's going to be to those people that my brand resonates with. And those are the clients that I want to serve.
I love that. I think you're right. I think what you're saying is that it's not inauthentic. In fact, you're doubling down on the authenticity of who you are. Exactly. And then because you're so authentic with yourself about who you are and what your brand is, if it doesn't mesh well with the other person, no one's at fault. You just go, It would actually be more inauthentic to sell someone on someone that you aren't. Oh, no, 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 come on, it's fine. You'll like it, but you're not that. I'm not a hand-holdy type either. So if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, and that's okay. We can shake hands and be friends. And I think that you're right. What you're saying kind of dispels the idea that you're really selling. You're never really selling your brand. You're just authentic in what your brand is, and sometimes it aligns and sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. And if it doesn't, it is what it is. We can still be friends. We can still be associates. And like I said, I know tons of people, and I am sure I can find someone to help you.
Yeah, that's great, because you're still coming from a place of wanting to help in a way that
Absolutely. Yes.
absolutely, yeah, okay, good. I love that. Okay, how do you use your brand to get clients? Oh, this is good. I think it's the perfect segue from what we just talked about.
So I use my brand to get clients because I am very me. Like I said, like there's no when people meet me, they know that they're getting the true me. And so that does resonate with people, and that is a way to get clients, because I think that the clients do understand that I'm coming from a place of care and concern, and I want to see them grow. I worked with a leader who called me the patron saint of lost causes, because when it comes down to it, like, I do believe that everyone has it in them to be an awesome leader. And I think that shows. And I think when people meet me, they do understand, you know what, she means it.
Yeah, that's great. It's because you're part of your brand, even if you're not the handholdy type, the other part of your brand is that you are deeply caring. You care about people's success. I think that that's an important distinction, especially for the people who are watching, who are new in their careers, that those things aren't mutually exclusive.
Right.
You can be direct, and you can be a go-getter, and you can be like, all of the things kind of like sharp-edged, so to speak, and yet still very kind and knowing. I had somebody that was on my team once who said, "Oh no, Angela." I said, "Oh, I'm easy breezy." They said, "No, you're not easy breezy. You're nice, but you're not easy breezy." I said, okay, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. But you can be both of those things, both nice and not easy breezy. So I love this. How impactful do you think appearance is in your personal brand? This is a great question, especially as a woman leader.
Yes.
Talk to me about even just how you feel about this question, and then of course the answer to your question.
I love the question. So one of the things, it's funny because I had a conversation with a leader the other day, and he doesn't want people to wear ripped jeans to work. Okay. He just thinks that it's just shouldn't be done. And so I kind of challenged him on that. And why? How does it impact you? How does it impact the people around them?
Right.
And it's so, because it's like just his team that has this restriction. And he hadn't really ever thought about it as how it impacts them and how it impacts the people around them. I think that people should be able to be authentic to themselves with what they wear. So if you want to wear something that shows your curves, by all means, wear something that shows your curves. If you want to have that, like, what's it, the capsule wardrobe, and it's just like turtlenecks and khakis, knock yourself out. Should you wear something that shows your underwear to work? Probably not. I would recommend against that.
Yeah.
But if you are the type of person that you want to dye your hair pink and wear polka dots and stripes, work for an organization that embraces that. Because if not, it's a lot of work putting on a mask every day.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, you're not as productive, you're not happy. It's a lot of mental energy. So make sure that you're working in an environment where you can truly be you. You can dress like you want, you can be you.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Tamica. I am really, I think, thoughtful in the way that I present myself and my appearance, and because I do think it has such a huge impact on the way that I am, how my brand is perceived at work. I dress probably more formally than most of the people I know, but that's because I have I think it's my Southern background. I grew up in this like very formal space, and I'm okay with that. In fact, it's very authentic to me. And I am really conscious of how impactful that is. And I think that I totally agree that your appearance does impact your personal brand very deeply. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. And so that's why you need to know
Mhm.
If you are going to have the pink hair and polka dots and stripes, that's your brand, and
Yeah.
you need to embrace that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, I love it. What was the reaction from those around you as you started to change your personal brand? This is a great question.
Yeah, so this is a funny question to me because when I 5 years ago I went back to school to do coaching, and that's when I really started being. I was pretty intentional about my personal brand before, but then I started really focusing on personal brand. And so now I'll have conversations with friends, and they're like, "Don't you coach me?" So there's like, so they have noticed that there is a difference, and I will say that I do feel like within my group of friends, it's we've all like kind of now like we're doing this and we're doing this together, and we're kind of raising each other up and we're holding each other accountable. So I think that the reaction was a very positive one, and it was more of like, oh, you're doing that, oh, I'm going to do that too, like let's do this together.
That's great. It was inspiring. They were, and I think that that's a testament to the people you surrounded yourself with, Tamika.
I have the most amazing friends like ever, like hands down. I don't know how it happened, but I have the most amazing friends.
That's great. Well, I think like attracts like, in a lot of ways. So I'm sure that they feel the same way about you. And by you being amazing, you attract more amazing people. Um, how did you find your mentors? I think that this is kind of goes into that same vein. How did you find your mentors? Any tips for finding mentors and creating good relationships with them?
Yes. So I think that one of the most powerful things that you can do is listen. And if someone tells you something that clicks, that is a person that you need to talk to more.
Mhm.
So one of my first jobs, I had a boss who I was a complainer. Like I would complain. I'd be like, why do we do it this way? Why? And she said to me, you know what? Going forward, when you have a complaint, I want you to bring me three possible solutions. And I was like, oh. And that like a light bulb just clicked. And like she is today one of my strongest mentors. I still go to her. I still talk to her all the time. So
Wow.
it's like find those people, like if someone drops like a nugget of goodness,
Yeah.
hold on to that person. And it's okay, like even if it's someone that you don't really know, to say, you know what, you're someone that I think that I can learn and grow from. Do you mind doing like 30 minutes a month? I'll grab coffee and we can chat.
That's great. Yeah. Do you feel like that that's a good cadence once a month?
So I think it depends on the person. It depends on your level of growth. I think
Mhm.
30 minutes a month with someone who is a senior leader is a pretty good amount of time. They're fairly busy.
Mhm.
If you want to meet with someone more often, if you are like a junior person, you're trying to really build your career, then
Yeah.
I'd say probably 30 minutes biweekly.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that's helpful. I think a lot of people go, okay, great. I know the importance of finding a mentor, but what do I do once I found it? You know,
Right.
what do I do once I found that person? And do you recommend having kind of unstructured conversations? What do you think? What should the content of those meetings be made up
Well,
of?
I'm an action plan person, so I always have like action plans and goals. So I do think that you need to have something that you're getting out of that meeting. So whether it be, so this week I have my performance evaluation coming up. These are the things I wanted to talk about, or you're working on a project and you want to kind of get their insight and feedback. So it
Mm,
should be you're meeting with that person for a reason, not just to kind of talk about your puppies and your kids, which is that's a good conversation to have, but you do want to make sure that you're growing out of those conversations.
right. Make it goal oriented. Know what you want your
Yes.
output to be. Don't
Yes.
waste this person's time because it's so valuable. Yeah.
Right. And I have like when I work with people trying to find mentors, I have like a list of questions that I give like as to start off, like
Oh, that's
what you
great.
want to bring into that conversation.
That's lovely. That's really helpful. What are the biggest benefits of a personal brand? I think we talked about this one a little bit. You talked about how, this is a reputation that kind of precedes you, and
Yep.
helps people know what they can expect from you. It also positively influences the people around you. Are there any other things that are benefits that we didn't touch on?
So I think one of the things that benefits is you want to be the person that people are talking about. So a lot of companies do like succession planning.
Right.
And if no one knows your name, you're not going on a list.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be known for something, and preferably something great, so that people are having a conversation about you. So the benefit is that you're on people's mind, you're top of mind. So it's not just a matter of, especially for women,
Yeah.
men typically raise their hand for roles, like they volunteer. Women don't do that as much.
Right.
So we, number one, as women, need to learn how to do that. We're not being pushy. We're asking for what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And two, we need to make sure if you have that personal brand, you're going to be on that person's mind. So
Yeah.
when they are thinking about people for a project or a role, they can say, well, Tom raised his hand, but Angela, she's been doing some awesome things.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's so great. I just want to like highlight this quote that you just said. If no one knows your name, you're not going on a list. And
Right.
succession planning, I think that that's so vitally important. I think that that's like just such a good essence of what a personal brand does for you is it gets people talking about you. It gets people thinking about you in positive ways that help you continue to grow in your career. I love that. How did your children grow from seeing you overcome such obstacles?
So I think that they grew a lot from it, because it's one thing to kind of be down and stay down,
Mm-hmm.
but to know that you can be down and come back up, I think is very valuable. So
Yeah.
it's not just, I didn't live the life of Riley and, kind of had things handed to me. They obviously didn't either. So being able to learn from that adversity and learn that things don't stay bad, like things can be bad, but
Yeah.
they appreciate that avalanche of awesomeness even more when it happens.
Yeah, no, that's so great, so impactful. We've got about 4 more minutes, so I want to try to run through these last few things really quickly, so that we can get to everybody's stuff. Appreciate the openness and vulnerability. Could you share some things that you still struggle with? I often hear people's hero journey stories, but don't often hear what they are currently struggling with. It could help people feel not so alone. I love this. What do
Oh
you?
yeah, so I struggle as a mom
Yeah.
still. My son has severe mental illness. He has schizophrenia.
Wow.
So that's an everyday struggle.
Mhm.
I still struggle with depression myself. So I still, everything's not rainbows and unicorns,
Right.
but I do know that things can be rainbows and unicorns. So it helps me get through those bad times.
I love that.
I struggle with dropping the F bomb inappropriately. So, I have my struggles.
Oh my gosh. I just love that so much. You and I share many struggles that are similar. That one being one of them, Tamica. Good. Thank you for sharing your story and inspiring me to figure out my own personal brand. Just look at the impact that you're having. And I think that that certainly helps, of course, when you're not having the unicorns and rainbows moments, knowing that you're having that kind of impact on somebody. And what is your advice on building a team brand within your organization? It's not just about me and my personal brand. I love this, especially as a leader in an organization. We are also I think, representatives of the teams that we lead. So what is your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this?
So I'm super competitive, so I'm all in on that. So
Yeah.
as a human resources professional, I do try to work with teams to have them have a brand. So I was working with a sales team, and they were my dream team. And so we were very competitive, with the other sales teams, with the numbers and with activities and having fun and bonding. So yes, I absolutely think that you need to build a team brand as well. And it's something that you need to be intentional about and talk to the team about and say, what do we want to be known for? What is going to be our thing? And make sure that you are doing, and I know team building sounds hokey, but that you are doing things so that you're growing together.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the idea of just being just as intentional about it, like as a team coming together and going, what attributes do we want our team to have? Just like you would do with your own personal brand, is
Right.
that self-discovery, but with more than one person. So
Yes.
we've got 2 minutes left. There was this really great thing in the chat that I want to bring up. We accept the love we think we deserve. I love this in the discussion surrounding yourself with the people who raise you up. You talked about your lovely group that surround you, that really you guys influence each other so positively. Can you speak more about this, Tamica? I've heard we're the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. I wonder if Tamica has any thoughts on that and how it affects your personal brand.
Yes. So I do absolutely 100% agree with that. I think that there are a handful of people that help shape who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important that you make sure that that handful of people are shaping you into something good and not something bad.
Yeah.
And I've had it both ways. And I've surrounded myself by people who weren't good and that weren't, bringing me up. And thankfully, I was able to learn how to say no to those people and say yes to myself and yes to good people and yes to good things.
That's great. Yeah. So yeah, firm believer then, Tamica, that you are who you surround yourself with. So
Yes.
in that journey of self-discovery, like deciding, is this person authentically aligning with the values of who I am and who I want to be? I love that. I think that self-discovery and self-reflection are a constant state. Your journey today, Tamica, that you've shared with us has been so powerful. I can't thank you enough. We really all grow as leaders when we hear stories like yours and we hear tips and tricks like you've shared with us today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, just a really quick note. We're going to be sending out the exchange, the recording to this event after this, so be on the lookout for that. If you'd like to get in touch with Tamica, you can find her on LinkedIn. She's the corporate fixer, of course. You've heard how amazing she is, so any work that you want to do with her, I highly recommend. If you want to talk more about Thoughtexchange, of course, you can get in touch with me. And then if you'll stick around, we've got engagement coaches for the last 15 minutes if you want to talk more about Thoughtexchange or how you can run your own exchanges in your own organization. So thanks so much for joining us today, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, Tamica.
Bye.